Now that Momo's got a GBN account, we're introduced to Rental Gunpla. The Gunpla Momo chooses could have been saved as a reveal for after the opening credits.
そのガンプラの名前はね、カップル、そう、カップルよ。But
I guess they wanted to give the audience something right away, some new bit of information. After the opening credits, we see Riku watching some highlights from episode 3. This of course triggers a flashback, just in case you didn't see episode 3. And of course Riku wants to get stronger. And he's taken a step in the right direction by finally adding the other sword gun to the 00 diver. I am gonna miss those other weapons he had in episode 3 though. It's time to move on, so they skip the normal GBN login sequence, and we just cut to the hub area where Riku asks Maggie how he can become more like the Gunpla champion.
ガンプラ道に近道はないわ。ガンプラを作り、バトルをこなし続ける。その回数が経験となってあなたを強くするの。一朝一夕でどうにかなるもんじゃないのよ。
I agree with the sentiment, but did they really have to have Maggie do that stupid finger flick on the nose thing? I guess if it doesn't bother Riku though, it doesn't bother me. When Momo reveals her GBN avatar, Riku just kind of wanders off because I'm starting to notice a theme here. Then we have this evil guy from episode 3 watching them. This is unintentionally hilarious when you realize that anime used to have these warnings telling you to watch in a well-lit room and not get too close to the screen. That was a more believable setup and a nice little reference to episode 2, so now it's time to go sightseeing. After marveling at the scenery for a little bit, we head to the Gunpla dojo, which is guarded by hockey players. Seriously, I'll crop the image like this, and doesn't it look like they're playing hockey? I cannot take these guards seriously. Those Gunpla are based off the training version of the standard GM grunt suit, but even those had some kind of weapons. But who needs projectile weapons and beam sabers when you've got a stick? They're not even good guards, they don't have a password or anything. Riku just tells them that he knows Maggie.
マギー様のお知り合いか。はい、そうですけど。大変失礼いたしました。
The Gunpla dojo is modeled after a Shaolin temple, possibly from Nepal, and the force leader is described as...
虎みたいな狼。まんまだ。
I don't know, he doesn't really look much like a tiger, and a lot of the characters just call him Tiger for short. So that might be a little distracting for some people. For me, it's like the Bajorans from Turn A Gundam, the Zakus from Destiny, or the many different ways to translate Shinigami into English. It's just something that you can pick up on after a few lines and just roll with it. Tiger says Riku can train at the dojo, but he's not going to take Riku on as an apprentice, which is reasonable. Riku shouldn't just get special treatment. Cue cuteness overload. Tiger has them do some classic martial arts training, which Yuki points out in the beginning isn't really challenging because this is a video game, leading to the obvious question, even though none of this is leveling up their characters, there is a point to this training. Essentially, new players treat their GBN avatar like it's their human body. But once you realize that you can't actually be injured here and your GBN avatar never gets tired, you can go beyond your human limitations. Now it's time for the next phase of their training, fighting a mobile suit using only their GBN avatars. Good luck with that. Now I want to see this show broadcast on American television just to see how they handle the localization. Our heroes find an opening and Riku actually uses that sword. Unfortunately, Riku took out the arm that wasn't holding the gun. If I could do cool stuff like that, I'd probably show off too. For now though, when I first saw this, my mind went to Mushroom Samba from Cowboy Bebop. That episode is actually referencing an old western called Django, and the payoff is different, but considering Cowboy Bebop's been out for 20 years or so, it is possible that was the inspiration, and it's fun to make these little connections. For example, Daniel is piloting Neo Mexico's Tequila Gundam, And if you're thinking, isn't naming the Mexican Gundam after booze kind of offensive? That's why in America it was localized as Spike Gundam, as in Spike Spiegel the Bounty Hunter. Now Daniel's not a bounty hunter per se, but he is doing this to get points. That's kind of like a bounty hunter, and here's the best part. Bounty hunting is illegal in Mexico. Simple! You're here because in episode 3, they had to set up, new guy, protect the women! It's even worse in episode 4 because this is a pretty obvious copy of what happened in episode 3. The worst part about this is that Momo has a Gunpla, and Tiger even complimented her on her skills, but here she just kind of stands there. I understand that they need to get Tiger out of here so that the regulars can fight. The problem is that when you combine this with the fact that Daniel tells Momo you don't belong here, it potentially sends the wrong message. Daniel could have insulted Momo for having a stock Gunpla, a rental Gunpla, or just the fact that this is an amphibious mobile suit and they're in a very obviously above sea level location. I think this was an unintended coincidence, but here's episode 4 of Gundam Wing. Considering Tiger uses one of Wu Fei's Gundams, it's probably best that you don't remind your audience of scenes like this.
You're a weak soldier. I don't kill bleeding hearts or women.
Unless Build Divers is trolling Gundam experts, in which case, well played.
正直、今の俺たちじゃあいつには勝てない。でも、今、俺たちにできること！
I understand reusing assets, and in episode 3 their missile pods didn't even detach, but Yuki already did a missile attack, no pods, and then they just came back somehow. It's still a good fight, we get some teamwork tactics, Riku has this giant beam saber, probably inspired by Kyoya. Realistically, there was no way for Yuki and Riku to win this. That wasn't the point. The point was not to run away from an unwinnable fight. Now that they've learned that lesson, and of course Tiger's fine, we're just gonna have fun with this. So Tiger activates Super Mode, even though Ultron is from Gundam Wing. Whatever, let's just do a G Gundam finishing move. After this, Riku asks Tiger, hey, when I level up, can you teach me how to do that super special super move?
手に入れる必殺技の形は今までどんなガンプラを作ってきたかどんな戦い方をしてきたかによって変化する
Build Divers can get away with unique abilities like this because it's a completely different franchise.
俺にしか使えない俺だけの必殺技だ
With that, Tiger tells them that they should be developing their own techniques, and now we're back in the real world where Riku's bought some more Gundam merchandise. And it looks like those are upgrade parts for the 00, so that's exciting. Getting new Gundam merchandise is always exciting, hint, hint. My only complaint about this episode is it's unclear how long the training is actually supposed to take. With this scene right here, we have nighttime, and then transition to the next morning. Then they do the training montage with scenes that are outside of GBN, which makes sense. Training would take a long time. This is something you have to process. But then that means that Momo rented the same Gunpla each time. This is all probably taking place over the course of one day, and everything can just be explained as stylistic choices with the montage combined with an accelerated day-night cycle. But they could have done a lot more with this episode. If Momo was using a different Gunpla each time to emphasize that this is taking place over the course of a few days, that would make more sense. The training takes time. Remove some of the more awkward moments, fix the continuity in the fight sequence, and then you have an episode that's not just good, but great. This is the Hypervisor signing off.